key message of this fifth economic update is that Kenya is indeed navigating a storm due to high food and fuel prices, drought in the Horn of Africa, and the economic crisis that's now occurring in one of its key markets, the Eurozone. Like previous Kenya economic updates, this particular report focuses on a special topic which we hope will be of interest to Kenyans and will spark a debate on some of the key policy options that the country is facing. But for this fifth report, the special topic is devolution, which is a critical and ambitious program for delivering the promise of Kenya's new constitution. As you all know, Kenya's devolution will involve the creation of an entirely new level of government, and it will be very challenging for the government to manage this momentous transition while also ensuring that service delivery continues and is expanded, particularly in the urban areas, which are the key source of growth for Kenya.
For 2012, assuming the shocks are mild, or Kenya will navigate through them successfully, as it did 2 years ago, we project a growth rate of 5.0%, which, however, if these shocks materialize, Kenya will only reach 3.1%. The shocks of this year have shown you that the economy is out of balance. Kenya has what economists call a current account deficit. It's negative. It's very, very negative. It's more negative than Greece. Fortunately, Kenya doesn't have the same fiscal problems than Greece, but it has. And third, as John said, the special focus of this year's report is on devolution. A momentous devolution, not just because power will be transferred from center to the local levels, but also because 47 new counties, new local levels, will be established. Kenya's economic challenge this year was like an iceberg. The iceberg that you see, the tip, is the exchange rate, but underneath is the current account deficit, the structural problem in Kenya, too little exports. An economy cannot just succeed on tea and flowers alone. Next main big message, just to visualize for you the growth for this year and for next. We project 4.3% this year, for next year 5.0, which then could increase to 5.5. So this is the big message. Grow the cake before you split it, and if you split it, there are lots of lessons and experiences from many countries. Shanta spoke about them in the panel, and we are looking forward to hear your questions.
Then there was a question about the monetary and fiscal policies that, and I just want to clarify, those policies were not to restore balance. In fact, they were running deficits in order to keep demand high enough so that it wouldn't collapse when the global economy was collapsing at the same time. That was the wise decision because some of these countries, including Kenya, had fiscal space, so they could run deficits in order to protect particularly the poorest people in the countries from the worst of the recession. That said, you're absolutely right that by itself, almost by definition, doesn't address the longer-term problems of oil, energy, and food. That is still on the agenda. That was on the agenda in 2008-9. That's still on the agenda, and we have to work on it. But I still think that doesn't take away from the fact that the response to the 2008-9 crisis was absolutely the right thing to do, given the circumstances that we were faced with.
High international prices for food and fuel drove inflation upwards, and there wasn't a lot that the central bank could do about those prices. But there are some things that Kenya can do to reduce its dependency on oil, and in particular on the importation of oil for electricity generation. If Kenya is able to shift some of its dependency on energy generation away from oil-driven power plants to geothermal and wind power plants, that will reduce its dependency on oil, relatively speaking, for what is now a very large part of its import bill.
In addition to the potential of commodity prices dropping in the event of a recession in the Euro area, there's also tourism. Remember that the entire Europe is the biggest source market for Kenya's tourism. So in the event there's a recession there, then the big tourism numbers we project targeting to achieve in the coming days would actually not be realized. And again, that really has a big impact on their current account deficit. Kenya is really a big services industry. With these innovations in M-Pesa, in ICT, there's a great potential there for Kenya to increase the service exports. Tourism alone, a service export is not enough. we need to start turning around our ICT innovations into export and forex earning initiatives.